Hello and welcome to the ExJW podcast. I'm your host Riley, a former Jehovah's Witness who left the religion in 2019. And this week's episode is a very special one because I have with me in the studio my wife Marcia, also known as Mrs. ExJW.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I say in the studio with air quotes because we're actually just in our room sitting up in bed. Yeah, it's nothing that sophisticated. So I've been wanting to do an episode like this for quite some time. I thought it would be interesting to get your perspective on what it's like meeting, dating, falling in love and getting married to a former cult member, specifically a former Jehovah's Witness. What are the challenges involved? How was it different from dating someone who wasn't from a high control religion? So just tell us what your experience was like.
Oh, wow. How much time do you have? Well, I guess we could start at the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. When I was 5. No. So I guess we could start at the beginning. Yeah, when I first met you and there was no indication. You never said anything about being a Jehovah's Witness, or at that point, I guess you had left the religion, but you weren't mentally out. Mm-hmm. You were still mentally in, but you weren't attending anymore. Mm-hmm. And, our first couple dates, I mean, obviously, I don't think that's something you want to bring up right away, but there were indications and things you were saying, about dating and being married for a long time and things like that. And then I think, on our second date, after our second date, you wanted to reassure me that you weren't, in it for anything other than, company and stuff. And you weren't trying to, get in my pants, as they say. And, you'd mentioned you'd only been with one other woman. And I could tell by our conversation that was the case, even though, again, so I just thought it was just a religious thing, because even coming from the States and not knowing anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, if you come from a very Christian community or, even, Catholic or, whatever, it's not uncommon for somebody, to meet somebody, marry young, and then that's the person that you, have sex with. So, not as common anymore, but, very common, I guess, when you and I were younger, right?
So did you think it was strange or weird at all that I'd only ever been with one person?
No, because I had actually, being married before, the person that I had married before was actually only with one other person before, and it wasn't for any religious reasons.
Right.
It was just that's just the way life happened, and they were only with one person, and then they stayed with that person for a long time, then they broke up. Right. So to me, it wasn't, because I had already been in that situation before, and I didn't really think anything about it, to be honest.
Right.
So then I don't think it actually came up for, probably about 3 weeks, close to a month, because it was right before we ended up meeting up again, because I went back to the States, and then you were still in the UK, and we, we're talking on the phone every day. And you remember you saying something, and I asked you, oh, were you religious? And you were like, yeah, I was a member of a religious. You were still very hesitant to tell me.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, I was very religious. I was like, oh, what, denomination were you thinking it was just going to be? And you're like, oh, Jehovah's Witness. And I was like, oh, okay. And I guess from when I grew up in the Midwest and all that, I didn't know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses. We had Christians and we had Catholics, and and Baptists. Baptist was really big and I grew up Baptist. So anyway, so when, you said that, I really didn't think anything about it. I was like, okay. And we carried on our conversation, and I was like, so, I think I remember telling my cousin after we had spoken, and I was like, yeah, he's, really religious and this and that. And she was like, oh, what religion? I said, Jehovah's Witnesses. And she was like, oh my goodness. It's basically like, holy. And I was like, wow, what is going on? So I Googled real quick and then I found the Wikipedia page and it was like, I just remember seeing something about 144,000 and I was like, okay, that's all right. But because we still were getting to know each other, I didn't want to base anything that I found online or anything anybody said. I didn't want that to, determine or already play a factor in how I was going to see you. So I just didn't pay attention to it anymore. And
that was very fair of you.
Thank you, babe.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. So, yeah, and then I think it was just as our relationship progressed, and I learned more and more. And after we had met up the third time, we went to Portland, and then of course we had relations. That's when you decided, you're like, I'm going to write a letter telling them I'm not going back, to the religion. And I'm obviously mentally in at this time. And I remember thinking, oh, that's weird. Why you got to write him a letter telling me you're not going back?
Sorry to interject,
no.
But that isn't actually a requirement. It's just that I was still in quite frequent conversation with an elder from the last congregation that I attended, and we were actually really close. I was disfellowshipped, obviously, at the time, but he's an elder that I'd known ever since I was a kid. He was, for a large portion of my childhood, he was sort of like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
In the religion. So I was still having frequent conversations with him, and he would check in on me every now and again. So I just thought that it was fair to tell him where I stood. That's why I decided to send him that letter that it was an email, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not something that the religion actually requires.
Got it.
It doesn't require you to send a letter to say that you're not coming back. It is an option.
Right.
But it's not a requirement.
Yeah. Which, looking back now, I've thought about this every once in a while. I don't think I've ever told you, but looking back now, if you were still like 100% mentally in.
Yeah.
You were very angry at the religion, but you were still 100% mentally in. And looking back now, what does that say if you were I don't know if you were scared to tell me that you used to be a Jehovah's Witness or that you were a Jehovah's Witness. But if you were like, yeah, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, this is how I've spent, all my life up until this point in the religion, why would you be so afraid of me or not even afraid? Because I don't know what you're feeling. Why weren't you forthcoming with that information? Why weren't you just like, oh yeah, I'm a Jehovah's Witness and we believe this and this and this? Was there a part of you that was just like, I know this is going to sound crazy when I tell her?
So there were two things, right? Partly because of my status in the religion, the fact that I was no longer in it. That I'd been disfellowshipped, and I didn't really want to have to explain about the disfellowshipping process.
Yeah, because at this point I didn't know that you had been disfellowshipped and why you had been disfellowshipped. Well, exactly. I knew that you had been disfellowshipped, but I didn't know why you had been disfellowshipped. Yeah.
And I just didn't really want to go into all of that and what all the implications of it were.
Yeah.
But the main reason is because I really, really liked you and I wanted to continue seeing you, and I was scared that it would put you off because before I met you, I was dating someone who I really, really liked. I mean, I wasn't in love with her or anything, but I really, really liked her company. I liked dating her.
Yeah.
We got on well. And the very day that I told her I used to be a Jehovah's Witness was the last time I ever saw her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was the last time I saw her. I mean, we were on a date and we were in her car. We were talking. She asked me about my friends. And I just got nervous because obviously all of my friends are now shunning me. But I didn't want to be dishonest. So I said, yeah, I have some friends, but I don't really see them anymore at the moment. And she was like, why? And she was like very inquisitive.
Yeah.
So I just said, I come from a very strict religious community. All of my close friends are in that religious community. And I was excommunicated and now they no longer speak to me.
Yeah.
So she said, oh, what religion is it? And then I said, Jehovah's Witness. And she goes, And literally it was like this. I said, Jehovah's Witnesses. There was a pause. And then she said, anyway, I've got to be going now.
No, she didn't.
It was literally just like that. It was just like that. And that was the last time I ever saw her.
Yeah. Did you like try to contact her after that? And did she?
Yeah. We spoke a couple of times on text.
Yeah.
But I could tell that she wanted to like try and
fade out
and end
things.
So.
No.
Yeah.
See, that's what I didn't want to happen. I didn't want to already have this, idea of who you were based on what I would find out or what I knew about, Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I will say about that really, I guess made this, set this tone for our relationship is that I take that back. I didn't know why you were excommunicated at the time. Cause I also ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I always ask a lot of questions about everything.
Yeah.
Just to understand, not to judge. And so, the first time I asked you, why'd you leave the religion? And you told me you were excommunicated. You didn't use the term disfellowshipped. Because I remember saying excommunicated to people, and then you started saying disfellowship, and then I started saying disfellowship. So, and I remember asking you why, and you were honest, and you told me why, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Like, to me, I was just like, okay, that's again, didn't know anything about rules and stuff like that, and so I was like, oh, okay, just carried on about, and then really just never really thought about it because I was like, wow, this is a really strict religion. But as we got to know each other over time and, I would ask you questions and then you would say, and you were still mentally in, and I would ask you questions. I was like, I even asked you about your friends and he's like, oh, well, they don't, we don't speak anymore. And I was like, so you didn't make friends at school? You didn't make friends at work? And you're like, no, I made friends at work. And thank goodness you did still have friends, even though you shouldn't have, outside of the religion that you were still talking to, which was good. I really helped you during that time because I didn't have the knowledge or, anything that, your friends had during that time to help you. So I'm so grateful to them for being there for you. And then, I remember asking you about, oh, well, you have to have like school friends, you couldn't have just went to school with Jehovah's Witnesses. And you're like, no, they just kind of discouraged, not having friends. And and then I can't remember what exactly you said, but it really stood out to me as being like, okay, this is really a high control group. I remember where we were. I came to visit you. We were on a bus and I was asking you about your school friends. And you had said that, oh, I didn't have any friends that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like, oh, because they made, and this time we weren't calling it a cult, but I was thinking cult. But you said, oh, I didn't really have any friends at school that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like, oh, because they didn't want you. And you're like, no, it's not because they didn't want to. I could have had friends, but, it was just, the religion just discouraged it because, I don't think you said worldly people, but the way that you were telling me about it. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I don't want to say anything because you're still like mentally in, but I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, but I remember even following up with that saying like, no, I think that they set it up because like how they brainwash you. Like, no, this is totally your decision, but I just want you to know that if you do this, and I remember thinking like, oh my goodness, how much of their, and it really sealed the deal for me when you were staying with your mom at the time because you're divorced or, you weren't divorced, but you had left your marriage and you were staying with your mom. And I was getting ready to come over and visit you. And we were trying to figure out where we were going to stay because obviously we were going to stay at your mom's house. We don't want him to hear that. Am I right? So we were figuring out where to stay. And we got an Airbnb and everything. And then you called me like a little while later and you're like, well, I'm going to have to find a place to live. And I was like, why? What happened? You're like, well, the elders came over and talked to my mom and she just thinks that's the best idea if, I don't stay there anymore because I'm, disfellowshipped. And I shouldn't be staying with her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they came over there. Like, I was mad. I was like, they came over there and they gave your mom an ultimatum and they told her, and you're like, no, 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 this was her decision. This was her decision. I understand where she's coming from. She doesn't want me there if I'm disfellowshipped. And I'm like, babe, they came over there and told her that they needed to kick you out. No, I know this guy. He wouldn't do that. And I was like, babe, you're not seeing this. Like, they came over there. I was like, what are the odds that you send them that letter? This was right after you sent them that letter. What are the odds you send them that letter? 2 days later, they're over at your mom's house. They're not doing just a wellness check. I mean, they're over there telling her this is what's going to happen, basically, even though technically, in your words, no, they just suggest that this would not be a good idea, and when really it's not suggesting, we're suggesting this, but just to let you know, if you don't do this, you're going to be in bad standing with the church or whatever. And I was like, oh my goodness, she's kicking you out because of that. But you held on to that for a long time. You're like, no, I know this guy. He wouldn't do this. My mom's just, I understand the situation. And I do understand the situation. I don't blame her at all, even though, now it's a little bit different. But I know that's why they came over there. And that's the fact. It just broke my heart that you thought this guy was such a good friend that he wouldn't do that to you when that's 100% what he did. He went over there and told your mom that if she didn't kick you out, that she would be in bad standing with the church. So you had to find a place to live with, like, in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. And that set the tone for how I felt about the organization. It set my tone for how the light that I saw them in. But it was still quite a bit of time before, but certain things would come up. So I remember asking you about the financials, like, oh, well, I'm sure they all live in nice houses, I'm sure. And you're like, no, they all, none of them get paid. They don't, like, they use the money for these purposes. We see everything they use the money for. And I still remember thinking, oh my goodness, like, how is he not seeing this? But I didn't say that,
Yeah,
I didn't.
I remember this conversation.
Yeah. I remember because we were lying in bed again. And I asking about the financials, oh no, they're very open about the financials. They're very open about where they spend the money, where it goes. And then you're telling me about how, everybody volunteers to build these things. I'm like, wow, they're getting free labor. Like, this is crazy. So anyway, it wasn't really a big part of our conversations ever. I mean, unless something came up, it wasn't really like every conversation we had was based on, me trying to, wake you up in a sense, because I didn't even know that was really a thing, waking up. And so it wasn't until I went back to the US, this was about a year after we started dating, and that you called me and that you were so upset. I mean, on the verge of tears with all this stuff that you had found out about the Hitler stuff or the Nazis. And you were just so upset. And then that's when it all just started like falling apart for you. And that's when we both at that point were just so like in it to figure out like, whoa, all this stuff.
I will never ever forget that. I remember exactly the day that you're speaking about. Because I had started waking up literally the day that you went back to the US.
Yeah.
Because I took you to the airport. I was on my way back and I stumbled across an old Facebook friend who's now an ExJW.
Yeah.
And they had on their profile picture on Facebook an apostate t-shirt, and they had all this anti-JW stuff on their profile. And that's what started making me think, why would somebody voluntarily self-identify as an apostate? And I kept thinking about it. And then about 2 weeks after that, maybe even less, I decided that I was going to start Googling. And I ended up on ExJW YouTube and I just binge watched ExJW stuff on YouTube for the next couple of weeks. And that's when I called you and told you about all the things that I'd found out. And especially about the Hitler thing.
Yeah.
So for those who are unfamiliar with this, Joseph Rutherford, the second president of the organization in the 1930s, he wrote a personal letter to Hitler. In an attempt to gain favor with the Nazi regime, he wrote a letter to Hitler saying that they share a lot of common ideas. And that letter was actually published in one of the yearbooks. The organization doesn't publish yearbooks anymore, but right from the beginning up until a few years ago, they would publish a yearbook every year. And this one, it was either the 1935 or the 1937 yearbook that this letter he wrote to Hitler was published in. And I actually saw a copy of the letter online, and it really, really disturbed me emotionally.
Yeah.
It was bad enough finding out that the religion wasn't true.
Yeah.
You know, and all the false doctrines and all the hypocrisy and all of the lies and all of the things about its history that they hide. But finding that out, it hurt.
Yeah.
It really, really hurt.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation that we had when I told you about that. And I think I was actually drinking.
Yeah.
I was drinking when I called you and told you about it.
Yeah.
I actually drank myself to sleep that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must have been really hard. I can't even imagine just having your whole world just like,
yeah,
everything that you knew. I mean, in a Christian sense, it would be like, you know, I guess really finding out that there's like no, you know, heaven and hell or something, you know, I mean, or that you had been lied to, you know, your whole life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, when you're little, but, you know, say like you keep growing up and like everyone was like, no, there really is a Santa Claus. And you're like in your 40s still believing there's Santa Claus that, you know, all this time only to realize one day you find out that you know, you look under the tree and you realize that that's your parents' handwriting or that's your spouse's handwriting, you know, and all this time, you know, it's just like, I mean, of course it's a lot, you know, deeper than that, but.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about being with a former cult member did you find particularly difficult, if anything?
Yeah, there are some difficulties. I mean, being with you now and being with you at the beginning of our relationship is like night and day because, and I wouldn't necessarily say in a bad way. Well, I wouldn't say in a bad way at all, obviously, or I wouldn't have been in the relationship with you. But it was challenging at times because you were very angry and not angry outwardly. You weren't, you know, you never yell, you never raise your voice. So it wasn't angry as in like, you know, F everybody and everyone's going to burn now. It was, it was angry as in just the weight that you carried around and how a lot of the times you were very emotionless. And that was difficult because sometimes I felt like if I was sad or I was going through something, I wouldn't say it didn't matter, but it didn't register with you. And if I was seeking comfort from you, I didn't receive that because you didn't know how to give it. Because you were so just emotionally angry, like mentally angry inside. But there were, and I would always tell you at the beginning of our relationship, like, I love you for who you are and the man you're becoming, because I knew that there was more to you than just that. And I would see glimpses of that all the time. I mean, we had a great relationship from the very beginning. But when you were able to sit with that, and sit with, you know, everything and as it was unfolding and everything that, you know, all the crap that you had been through even before you left the organization, how much it beat you down and how angry you were and how emotionally drained you were from just even being in your previous relationship and how the organization treated you when you were in it. You carried a lot of that weight for the first couple of years of our relationship until you started healing through the ExJW community and healing through talking about it and, you know, being able to share a lot of that with you, you know, I'm so glad, even though it was hard at the beginning, I'm so glad we were able to go through that together because it allowed me to see all that weight you were carrying It would allow me to know who you are and watch you grow. And it's really such a beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing to see where you were and to where you are now. It's like you're two different people, but the same person, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right about the way that I was carrying. When I think back to those times, it was with me all the time. It was like carrying the weight of another person on your back the entire time. And I remember there was one time we were in California and I had a dream one night that I was at home and two Jehovah's Witnesses, not anyone I know in real life, just two random Jehovah's Witnesses, turned up at the door. And I opened the door and I spoke with them a little while and I told them that I was disfellowshipped and how angry I was with the organization. I specifically remember saying to them in my dream that I know for a fact that I am not going to live into old age, because all of the anger and hurt and resentment that I'm carrying around because of the way that the organization has treated me, I can feel it shortening my lifespan.
Yeah.
I was telling this to them in my dream. I said, I know I'm not going to live into old age. I can feel my lifespan being shortened because of all of this negativity that I'm carrying around. And when I woke up and remembered my dream, I knew then that I had to do something, because I've always had vivid dreams and most of my dreams are completely random and ridiculous. But every now and again, I'll have a dream that's so profound. I know that it's my subconscious trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like part of me trying to help the conscious side of me to recognize a situation that I have to do something about.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I saw that dream. It was like my insides crying out to me for help, saying, you've got to deal with this or we're not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah.
And then I knew that when we got back to the UK, I was going to have to seek help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was something that, that was another hard part of our relationship. I mean, our relationship in general has been really, easy, to be honest. I mean, once we got over, some hurdles at the beginning when you're trying, I always say you were coming out of a bad relationship, trying to figure out how to be in a good one.
Yeah.
And I was coming out of being single, living my best life, trying to figure out how to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So it took us a while to kind of get in sync that way, but there was something still like pulling us together. Like we wanted to be together. So we had a very good relationship, from the beginning, and we're growing all the time. Of course, there are going to be bumps and stuff, but I always think of people who are like, marriage is hard. You got to work on it. I'm like, it is? Like, what? I mean, it's hard, I guess when you're, trying to figure out each other. But if you have communication and you were just like, hey, this is what's bothering me. And something that we started doing that I really like is like, this is the story I'm telling myself. Because when you're self-aware, which you have become very self-aware over the last several years. When you're self-aware and you know that this might not be the reality of the situation, and we're like, I just want to talk to you about this. That's helped us so much in communicating.
Yeah.
But before we started doing that, it was, I guess the hardest part was being away from you. Me being in America, you being here, and then, COVID happened, which thank goodness we were together when COVID happened. But once we were separated and we didn't see each other, it was hard because not being away from you, like we were going to fall out of love. It was hard because you were going through some of the hardest times with me not being here.
Yeah.
You were going through your divorce, you were suicidal a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard, not knowing when I went to sleep, am I going to wake up and have, a whole bunch of messages, a whole bunch of texts, or, what was going on. And so that was the hard part when, you were feeling that way. And, I remember, calling your friends, asking if they can come check on you. And, and again, it was hard because it was COVID time, and it was when you were like, I think even at that point, you were thinking this is Armageddon, right? Because you were still mentally in.
That was earlier on.
Was that earlier on?
That was earlier on in COVID.
Yeah.
But later on, the times you're referring to was after that.
Okay.
It was like the second lockdown or the third lockdown.
Yeah. When you're going through your divorce, because you were awake, at that time. And everything was like over Zoom. So, you know, and that was really, really hard on you because you literally had to do that by yourself. You know, it was your ex and her 5 lawyers and the judge and then you. You know, because, you know, money was tight and, you know, it was really hard. And that was really hard, not being able to be there for you. And then, you know, I was going through some stuff and stateside, you know, where I had, you know, was going through a surgery and, you know, things went bad and I was in the hospital and, you know, you not being able to be there for me, you know, those were the times it was really, really hard when we had to be apart. And, but from a Jehovah's Witness, you know, standpoint or whatever, that was just, it wasn't hard for me. It was hard for me watching you realize and go through all that. It wasn't hard on me because, you know, obviously I didn't experience it, but what was hard on me is watching you go through that and not being able to be there and give you a hug, you know, when you needed it, or like when you called me crying because you found out about the Hitler thing, you know, not being able to just be there and hold you and tell you it was going to be okay. So that was very difficult, but like I said, it was a beautiful experience in a sense to see you grow from the person that you were when we first started, which was, again, very closed down, very kind of angry in a sense, to now. I mean, most of your days are very joyous and very, you know, we just live the best life and we're happy and we laugh and I can feel this, you know, the weight that's been lifted off your shoulders, you know, especially when, you know, you talk about things like that the anger is gone. You just have this frustration that, you know, and the determination that you want to help people, you know, see so they don't have to go through everything they went through, you know, and they don't have to be scared like you, or they don't have to be angry, even though those are all normal, very valid feelings. You know, it's great to see you at the point in your life where you're just able to enjoy it. Of course, not always, you know, you're always going to have moments where you think back and it makes you upset. But yeah, it's really great to see where you are now as to where you were before.
Thank you, baby.
You're welcome, baby.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
From my side, I can't say that there's anything that's been particularly challenging about dating someone who's never been a Jehovah's Witness compared to dating and being in a relationship with someone who is. I can't think of anything negative about it. You know, there are only positives.
Yeah.
Someone else might have a different experience, but in my experience, I can't think of anything negative about being with you compared to being with someone who has been a Jehovah's Witness or even someone who's never been, but has experience or knowledge or understanding of what the religion is all about. So it's all good from my side.
Yeah. Was there anything that, other than being, you know, telling me at the beginning that you were a Jehovah's Witness, was there anything that you were worried about me knowing about you or the Jehovah's Witnesses that you were like, oh, I hope this doesn't scare her off, or I hope this, you know, doesn't make her feel away?
Not anything in particular, just generally being a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Come to think of it now, the lady that I was seeing before I met you, she was Irish. And if memory serves, from conversations I've had with Irish JWs, the religion is not very well received in Ireland.
Ah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
That might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, she was just so put off.
Yeah.
It was literally a pause, and then she said she has to go.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her since.
Well, sad for you, but good for me.
Yes.
I mean, I don't hate her. I'd shake her hand if I met her. Like, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a crazy ride, but I think even though I wasn't, and I'm not an ex-Jehovah's Witness, yeah. Even growing up Christian, and in Baptist, even though it's not like I was Baptist when I was younger, it's not like, when I was older, I was like, I'm a Baptist. I was just like, yeah, I believe in God. And, I never felt like I had to go to church to pray to God. I'm like, you can pray to God anywhere. Why do I need to go to church to do that? Or, but there was a lot of the same, like we did believe in Armageddon. We, we did believe at the end of times and the end of days and all that. So there were similarities in that, but, nothing like we thought we were going to be the chosen ones and, all that. So that was, a little different, but, I'm glad that you found that community and that you found your voice in that community, because that, other than you're going to therapy, which I think has helped tremendously, that was your therapy. Being able to talk to people, being able to talk to and know that you're not alone, knowing that they could give you something that I couldn't, that made me so happy for you that you were able to find a community that was just your therapy. And I remember a friend asked me one time, do you ever get tired of him talking about, ex-Jehovah's Witness stuff? And I was like, no, because that is his therapy. Like, to me, that's no different than somebody doing a podcast on, horror movies and watching horror movies all the time and talking about horror movies all the time, or, whatever, or video games or whatever it happens to be. It's no different than that. Like, that's their therapy. That's something they enjoy doing, talking about stuff that they understand. That it's you doing that and you talking about that and, all the time, not all the time when you're not, talking to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's your therapy. That's all you knew all your life, up until this point. Why would I be put off? Now I will say, to be totally honest, there are times where it's been emotionally draining because, if you're playing video after video after video, not that it's annoying, like, oh my God, they're still talking. It was emotionally draining, knowing, like, hearing people's stories and hearing of me being an empath. It was very emotionally draining. So there were times that I'm just like, babe, I need you to shut that off for a bit. I can't, it's too much. And not that I was trying to be selfish, like, it's too much for me. I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, but I can't listen to the story anymore. It's just emotionally. So, there have been times where that's, been, I guess not even hard, but where it's been just emotionally kind of like, I can't, listen to, another story right now, because for me, just being an empath, it was a little too much. But other than those times, I don't get tired of you talking about it. I don't get tired of learning. Sometimes I'm just as angry as you are.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? I can't believe this. And I'm asking people. I remember when we go and meet up with some of your ex-Jehovah's Witness friends, I'm just as inquisitive. Like, and sometimes people mistake me for being an ex-Jehovah's Witness because I'm just like, no, what? Tell me this. And how is this? And, because I cannot believe some of the stuff that they believed or they taught you, or, it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. And every time they're wrong, it's just like, oh no, we weren't wrong. That's new light. That's new light. I'm like, new light this. You can't see me, but I was making a motion with my hand.
I know. Something that always makes me laugh when I think about it is that there are certain beliefs that I remember speaking to you about early on, and you saying, that's dumb. Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And it's only when you said how dumb it was that I then realized how dumb it was.
Yeah.
It will be something that, I'll give you an actual example. So,
and it wasn't dumb like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying it's so dumb what you're saying. It was what you were telling me was dumb, not you were dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So like, I remember when I told you about the 1,000-year reign. So, Armageddon, according to JW doctrine, Armageddon happens at the end of the Great Tribulation. And then it's only Jehovah's Witnesses left on the earth. And Satan is going to be abyssed or locked up in a jail for all intents and purposes for 1,000 years. And then after that 1,000 years, he's going to be released again. And then it's practically like another Armageddon happens after that. And I remember explaining that to you and you saying, these are your exact words. That is the dumbest effing thing I've ever heard in my life. And immediately as you said that, I thought about it and saw how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And moments like that happens quite frequently.
Yeah. There was another moment, I don't know if it was the same one, where you were telling me about people who were going to get resurrected. But if so the people that were on here now, or the people that were on earth now, if they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, they were going to die, period.
Yeah.
They weren't going to come back. But a serial killer who died before Armageddon,
yeah,
he was going to come back.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, well, what about people who you didn't have time to preach to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are they going to die if you didn't have time to preach to them? You can't possibly reach everybody and try to preach to them, even if they turned you away or not. You can't possibly reach everyone. So why would God punish them, but then bring back a serial killer? I remember thinking, that's effing dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
it is.
Why?
It is.
What sense does that make?
Yeah.
So you can start all over and preach to them again and have the same thing happen?
Yeah.
Like, why? Why is that fair?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
It isn't. I remember hearing an example of two people who were in a car accident and they're both in ICU. One of them dies 2 minutes before Armageddon starts. And then the other one survives until after Armageddon starts. So the one who didn't die, he's going to get killed at Armageddon. But the one who died 2 minutes before Armageddon started, he's going to get a resurrection.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It makes no sense.
Yeah. And it was things like that, like, that didn't quite add up. Like, whoever thought these rules through didn't quite think them all the way through.
Yeah.
Like, at the time, I'm sure it sounded like a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, listen. Here's the people who were here before. They'll get resurrected. Not thinking like, you know what, though?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does Jack the Ripper really need to be resurrected? Maybe we should alter this a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't think that far ahead.
No, they didn't.
It was just like, okay, A, B equals C.
Yeah.
It wasn't like X plus Y plus 2 in parentheses. They didn't think that. They didn't think about that. All they cared about was we're forming a cult. A plus B equals C.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Are there any kind of, I'm not just speaking about early on in our relationship, even now, are there any kind of attitudes or opinions that I have or had in the beginning that were largely formed from being in the religion that you find particularly difficult?
You did see things as very black and white. There wasn't a lot of gray. And it's something that you will still have now, but and rightfully so, that you had at the beginning of our relationship till now is injustice, because but it was really like, you were really like zeroed in on certain kind of injustice at the beginning of our relationship. Like, I remember, there was a thing that I remember that happened with a celebrity, where the celebrity man was accused of doing something. And I remember saying, well, we should believe the woman, no matter who's right at the time, like, believe the woman until we have all the facts, because that's the problem with society. You're like, nope, like injustice, like, you're because of your experiences, and I don't blame you, because of your experiences and because of how you were treated, you saw it from that point of view. Like,
and only that point of view.
And only that point of view. Somebody is accusing something of doing something. They're saying they didn't do. It didn't matter if it was a man or a woman. Somebody is accusing something of something they didn't do. That was your experience, your whole entire marriage, your whole entire time in the organization. No, we need to, don't take anything away from them. You weren't saying that the person accusing wasn't right. Let me just get that clear. But you were very like, absolutely, that person should not be punished, because what if they didn't do that thing? Whereas now you still hold that belief, which is a good belief to hold because you don't like injustice. Nobody does. But you're more open to, that it could be that person, it is telling the truth. You're more open to things like women's rights, gay rights, trans rights. Those are all part of your vocabulary now. Whereas when we first started, it was not that you were against it, but it was very hard for you to see those things.
Yeah.
It was very hard for you to see those things from the perspectives of somebody else because of how you had lived the first 40 years of your life.
Yeah. And you're quite right in everything you said. And it's something that I still find difficult because both in my marriage and in the religion, I was accused of a lot of things that I didn't do.
Yeah.
Particularly towards the end
Yeah.
of my time in the religion. I was accused of a lot of things that I didn't do. And it really hurt because I still believed in Jehovah at the time. So I believed, or to me, I knew that Jehovah could see me being falsely accused of these things, knowing that I was innocent and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And
you were really upset. Yeah.
That really, really stung. It really stung for years.
Yeah.
Until I woke up. It really, really hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember us having conversations about that. You were really, really hurt about it.
It's something that's still part of my subconscious because I have a lot of recurring dreams, and most of my, if not all of my recurring dreams revolve around
you being accused of something.
Accused of something. Yeah. It is a big deal to me.
Yeah. But I mean, now you're way more open-minded about it, because I wouldn't say that you distrusted women, but you were very cautious around them. Just like, anybody who was hurt, a woman who was hurt by a man, being very cautious around men. I'm very cautious around men.
Yeah.
But you were very, very cautious around that part of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say it without making it sound like, you're a woman hater or something, because you definitely weren't.
I know what you mean.
But yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean. One thing that I can see that I was like at the beginning of our relationship is the JW idea of gender roles was still very much a part of my mindset.
Yeah.
Not so much now. But then, I wasn't as open-minded as I am now when it comes to gender roles and sexuality and things like that.
Yeah.
Did that pose a challenge to you?
No, because I don't ever remember there being, because I've always been fiercely independent and doing my own thing, and you never made me feel like that was wrong. The only time it's ever really that I've ever noticed a shift in you is, if, you don't have the money to do something and, but I do, you not asking because you feel like it's your job to take care of everything and pay for everything. And I'm like, no, it's not your job to take care of and pay for everything. It's our job to take care and pay for everything. But it was really hard for you to open up, as far as like, hey, I don't have the money to do this weekend. Do you have the money? Like, now that we're married and in a partnership, it's still difficult for you to be like, hey, I, need help paying this bill this month, or, something like that, to where, normally it would just be like, well, it's our money. We're paying for these things, So I do think that even still now you feel like your sense to take care of everything, which is, nice that you want to take care of everything. But, I do have to keep, not have to keep, but every once in a while I do have to mention, babe, this is a partnership. The responsibility doesn't lie on you to be, be the one taking care of everything all the time and making sure, we can work together to fix this problem or this bill or, whatever. Yeah. So
that's something that I really, really appreciate in our relationship, although it's still taking me time to get used to it being that way. It's something that I fiercely appreciate, because both in the religion and in my first marriage, I didn't feel like a person. I just felt like a role.
Yeah.
The sum of my value was in the duties I performed or the role I filled.
Yeah.
Not me as a person.
Yeah.
So coming out of that now and being in a relationship with you and being valued for who I am as a person and not just for what I can do or the duties that I carry out is very, very refreshing, to say the least. And that's me putting it extremely mildly.
Aww.
Yeah.
I know it's been way more challenging for you than it has been for me, just going through all this, but I'm really proud of you, babe.
Oh,
I'm really proud of you. I tell you that all the time.
Yes, you do.
So it's not like I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're doing a podcast. I should say how proud I am of you.
No, you do actually tell me that.
I am. I'm really, really proud of you, because you have come so far, and you're still growing. We're still growing together, and you're still growing. And it's like I said, it's a beautiful thing to witness. And I'm just glad that we'll be together when the end does come.
Okay, so I have one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you have any words of advice or affirmation for anyone in a similar position to yourself who is either dating or married to an ExJW and finding certain things challenging? What would you say to them?
Great question. Well, my advice would be to be patient, unless you're in a situation that is obviously harmful to your emotional, mental, physical health. And be curious, like ask questions, try to see things from, their side of, where they're coming from, and know that their experiences are different than yours. And communicate, and try to be understanding of their situation. And especially somebody who's been in it a long time and is coming out of it. It's a hard transition, and you might not understand, everything they're going through, but the best thing you can do is to try not to judge them and to be understanding and be willing to listen. And I don't know if there was something that, I did in the relationship that was able to help you, move forward a little bit. But yeah, that's my advice. Try not to prejudge based on what you already think or you might know. And, if you care about them, just be patient and try to, be with them along their journey, even though you might not understand it. Just be with them along their journey and be supportive.
That's very, very good advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there were a lot of things that you did that helped. Being fair and reasonable, not among the least of those things. You had a very strong desire to see me as being a multifaceted person and not seeing me in a one-dimensional way as being an ExJW, and that was it.
Yeah.
Because if you did, you could have seen and you did see a lot of negative things about me that were actually there, but you knew that wasn't the be all and end all. That wasn't the sum total of my personality. And that really, really helped. And I could see that you wanted to do that right from the very beginning, which I really appreciated, and which, only served to endear me to you further.
Yeah, I think it's important to, realize that just like, if you work at a job for 40 years or whatever, 5 years, you're not your job, you're not your religion. You're not, any of these things that you do. You're a human being. You yourself. You can, none of that defines you. None of that is who you are. And I think that that's really, really important for people who, get wrapped up. Like you said, the girl you were dating, she judged you based on your religion, but you're not your religion. You're not your past religion. And I think that's really, really important. I keep saying really, really.
I do that all the time.
It's really, really. I think it's very important for, because you wouldn't want someone to judge you based on, either things that you've done in your past, or, what you, do for a living, or, if someone's a construction worker or someone's, a sex worker or someone, that doesn't define who they are. I'm not saying those are bad jobs, but those are, often jobs where people, are judged, right? Where they shouldn't be judged, because that's not who that person is. It's just what they do for a living. It's just, what church they go to on Sunday, or it's just what, but each of us is our own individual person. We have our own mind, our own thoughts, our own feelings, and we should be allowed to explore those and be open to the people that we love about those without being judged or, so yeah, I think that's really important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning in the studio / bedroom.
One of my favorite places with you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this episode, and thanks for agreeing to do this with me.
Of course, babe. Of course. Anytime. I love being with you on this journey, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for us.
Likewise. And that is it for this week's episode of the Jexit podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, comment, and also subscribe so that you're alerted each time a new episode is posted. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a great week.